Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
The most common misunderstanding about Stoicism is that it's all about suppressing or burying our emotions. This tends to come from the confusion between Stoicism, uppercase S, and Stoicism, lowercase s. The former is the ancient Greek philosophy that we learn about and practice. The latter is simply a stiff upper lip coping style. Our Stoicism is about understanding our emotions by examining the thoughts and beliefs that give rise to them. Then we can try to better align these beliefs with reality by rationally changing them instead of suppressing them. In other words, we're not trying to use brute force to remove our emotions. We're using our cognitive ability to get to the root cause of them and adjust our way of thinking as necessary. This same approach can be useful for us to practice in other areas. One example is our formulation of desires and the mental tension we feel while they remain unfulfilled. The late spiritual teacher and psychotherapist Anthony DeMello gave a great summary of this approach in his book, Awareness. Quote, "Do not suppress desire, because then you would become lifeless. You'd be without energy, and that would be terrible. Desire in the healthy sense of the word is energy, and the more energy we have, the better. But don't suppress desire. Understand it. Don't seek to fulfill desire so much as to understand desire. And don't just renounce the objects of your desire. Understand them. See them in their true light. See them for what they really are worth. Because if you just suppress your desire and you attempt to renounce the object of your desire, you're likely to be tied to it. Whereas if you look at it and see it for what it's really worth, if you understand how you're preparing the grounds for misery and disappointment and depression, your desire will then be transformed into what I call a preference." End quote. What DeMello is saying is that just as Stoicism teaches us to do with emotions, we should perform an inquiry into where our desires are coming from. Do we understand why we want the object of our desire? Are we seeing it for what it's really worth? Have we unconsciously tied ourselves to it? When we turn desires into preferences through our rational examination of them, DeMello goes on to say, we begin to wake up and see the world as it really is. Quote, "When you go through life with preferences, but don't let your happiness depend on any one of them, then you're awake. You're moving toward wakefulness. Wakefulness, happiness, call it what you wish, is the state of non-delusion, where you see things not as you are, but as they are, insofar as this is possible for a human being. To drop illusions, to see things, to see reality." End quote. Another source of tension related to our desires is being led too far away from what it is we think we should be doing with our lives. We tend to feel unfulfilled when our desires and choices are based solely on expectations, common customs, and the pressure of imitating others. Instead of arranging our lives according to reason, wrote Seneca, we live according to a pattern and are led astray by convention. In his book, Anything You Want, Derek Sivers summarizes the risk of this way of life. Quote, "Most people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They imitate others, go with the flow, and follow paths without making their own. They spend decades in pursuit of something that someone convinced them they should want, without realizing that it won't make them happy. Don't be on your deathbed someday, having squandered your one chance at life, full of regret because you pursued little distractions instead of big dreams. You need to know your personal philosophy of what makes you happy and what's worth doing." End quote. In describing our journey toward a happy life, Seneca agrees that we should be wary of unconsciously following the crowd. Quote, "On most journeys, some recognizable road and inquiries made of the locals prevent you from going astray. But on this one, the paths most worn and used are also the most deceptive. So nothing needs to be emphasized more than that we should not, like sheep, follow the lead of the flock in front of us, heading not where we ought to go, but where it goes." End quote. Going your own way isn't always easy, of course. It can be daunting in the short term to proceed contrary to the opinion of those around you. But ignoring reason, ignoring your own capacity to determine what you should be pursuing, is a much riskier course of action in the long term. Again, it comes down to understanding our desires by examining the thoughts and beliefs that gave rise to them. As Derek Sivers concludes, whichever desires we pay attention to, criticism is inevitable. Just remember to listen to yourself. Quote, no matter which goal you choose, there will be lots of people telling you you're wrong. Just pay close attention to what excites you and what drains you. Pay close attention to when you're being the real you and when you're trying to impress an invisible jury. Whatever you make, it's your creation. So make it your personal dream come true.